recognize the ranking member for opening statement. I yield to the ranking member for an opening statement. I yield back.
Good morning, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Distinguished gentlelady from California, Mary Bono. Gentlelady is recognized.
Chair now recognizes the lady from California is recognized.
I'm pleased to introduce Congresswoman Mary Bono, former U.S. Representative for California's Inland Empire and Desert Region from 1998 to 2013.
Mr. Speaker, I yield myself such time as I may consume.
Gentlelady is recognized.
Welcome to Sagely Speaking. I'm your host, Mary Bono, and I'm so happy you're here. On this podcast, I hope to bring you insightful conversations with a variety of guests from all walks of life, people with stories, wisdom, and perspectives that inspire and inform. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe, and if you feel inspired, leave a 5-star rating. It helps us reach more listeners like you. Now let's dive into today's conversation. Hello, and welcome back to Sagely Speaking. I'm glad you're here. I have a great guest today who just embarked on a very, crazy journey to run for governor from the great state of California. I don't think you take those decisions lightly, but Sheriff Chad Bianco, who I consider a good friend, was elected to Riverside County Sheriff in 2018 and was reelected in 2022. He has definitely made a splash. He doesn't pull his punches, and ordinarily you see him around town in a white cowboy hat. I brought my cowboy hat today to wear with him, but it obviously doesn't fit over my headphones. Oh, I love it. So Chad, Sheriff Bianco, may I call you Chad?
Of course you can, please.
Okay. Well, you have been a fantastic sheriff. You have, again, I think, surprised a lot of people with who you are, how you've, run the office, what you stand for, what you believe in. Tell us a little bit, before we get into your decision to run for governor, let's talk about your term as sheriff. How has it gone?
It's gone very well.
I will tell you, I agree when you're talking, that little intro. It was, as an outsider and coming in and running against an incumbent sheriff who happened at the time to be my boss, there were a lot of people that weren't sure, and a lot of especially coming from his camp, saying that I wouldn't be prepared and I didn't have the experience or the leadership ability. But we've realized since then that was not true, and what we've been able to accomplish since 2018 when I was elected is we have benefited greatly, not only the department, but the other county agencies. And then obviously that rolls downhill to the people that we're supposed to be taking care of anyway, which is our residents of Riverside County. And it's, things have gone extremely well. It certainly was not easy. There were, you throw in a pandemic and civil unrest into the mix of regular law enforcement that you don't expect that you're ever going to have to deal with those types of things, and we had them all together. So it was, we came out of it very well. We came out better on the other end than we did going into it. And I think that people were extremely happy of how I handled myself, how I handled what was going on with what most perceived as things wrong with our government that they were doing to our residents and our businesses and things like that. We handled the riots that we had and the issues that we had with protesters. We took a very firm stance that we would not allow anything other than a peaceful protest. I'm a firm believer in everyone's constitutional rights, and we will be there to protect your right to protest. But once it goes to the realm of violent and damage and those types of things, then we will end it quickly. And we did. And we set that tone early, and it's been respected. We have not had any violent protests since then. And it was to the betterment and to the benefit of our businesses, of our residents, and things have just gone well. And then from a law enforcement perspective, I've spent the last 6 years battling Sacramento about their inability to help us with public safety, and almost a seemingly agenda that goes against public safety, like they don't want us to be able to protect our public. And so I've been in the news quite a bit. I certainly am very opinionated when it comes to the realm of public safety. I think that, I've been doing this for 32 years. I think I have a decent background to speak well on these issues. And I just realized that Sacramento had its own agenda that wasn't really benefiting public safety and the residents in Riverside County. So I've been doing everything I could to stand up for that. And then just the way things have been going in general, and with our government and with voters and with on the national scene and the state scene, I think it in the last couple of years there was a quite a big push of people pushing me to do something more than the office of sheriff. And in the end, it was a tough decision. I will say that I tried to do everything I could to talk myself out of it. And in the end, it was for selfish reasons. I'm very happy doing exactly what I'm doing right here. And I think that the people are happy with me here, and that I'm not going to have a tough election the next time in 2028 when my campaign is due again. And selfishly, it's like I'm good here. We're good here in Riverside, and my family is good. And politics is absolutely ugly, and it brings out the absolute worst of people and campaigns. And it's not something that Denise and I are looking forward to. In the end, we decided that never in my life have I ever done something for myself. My joy and my happiness in life comes when I help other people, when I can do something for someone else. And we realized, Denise and I, that if I didn't do this, I would regret it later. And in the end, this is what makes me happy anyway, is trying to make life better for everyone else. So I pushed aside the selfish reasons, and we're going to make a go of this and do everything we can to
Bring back a little bit of sanity to our California government.
Well, I want to applaud you for your leadership on fentanyl. And just by way of background here, the little nonprofit that I'm involved with, Mothers for Awareness and Prevention of Drug Abuse, gave you a humanitarian award a couple of years ago for your leadership. You are a no-holds-barred person with fentanyl. You don't take it lightly, and I want to just thank you for that. I think you've been a role model around California and this country for taking such a strong stance on that. But there's just zero tolerance of fentanyl in our communities, so thank you very much for that.
Well, you're welcome. It's certainly, fentanyl coming on the scene in the end of 2019, the early 2020, was obviously, we've seen the disastrous results and the consequences of just a horrible drug. And in early on, I believe that I always want to do the right thing, and I'm always trying to do the right thing, especially in this realm. Something has to be done. And it came down to me sitting across from a grieving mother and having her tell me that there can't be an answer of there's nothing we can do. She lost her beautiful 20-year-old daughter, and it was extremely difficult fighting back the emotion and the tears of watching her cry and her tell me the story. And I got with the DA who had the same conversation with her, and both of us said we've got to do something. That the answer in California was there's nothing we could do. It doesn't fit into the law. It's a controlled drug, but not a felony. There were so many obstacles, and we truly did, rather than just say, no, we can't help you. We figured out a way that we could. And we have become a leader across the country, very much so in the state. And we have instructed other chiefs of police and sheriffs and DAs across the country on how they can make a difference with this. While we're waiting for our lawmakers to give us better laws that would make it easier from the state and the federal level, we're doing everything that we can. And so far, we've charged right around 40 people in state court with murder and 8 others in federal court with murder for causing the death of someone by supplying them fentanyl. So we're doing everything we can. We know that the word is getting out amongst the drug dealers in Riverside County that they prefer to not come into our county and sell. We know that people are being forced to drive to go get their fentanyl because the people that are selling it know that we will find them, and if there's a way for us to charge them with murder, we will.
Well, Chad, which leads me to the passage of Prop 36. And I was just recording another podcast where we talked a lot about the economy and things that are wrong with California, which we're going to get into with you. But one thing I talked about is in California, people don't generally mind paying exorbitant income taxes, and because they used to feel that it was worth it. This is the, the Golden State, California dreaming, all of these wonderful things about California. And they're to the point now, forget it. We are not getting what we're paying for. And they're angry. And center folks are angry. Liberals are angry. And Prop 36, I think, sort of bundled all of these issues together, where it's theft reduction, it's the fentanyl. Can you talk about Prop 36? Because I think it's a turning point that I'm assuming sort of encouraged you to run, that your kind of leadership at the state level is desired by people, and the overwhelming passage of Prop 36 proves that point.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I will say that Prop 36 had a huge impact on my decision, not only my decision, but the impact of that was caused on me by people telling me just because of Prop 36. I became, it was willingly, but they asked me to be the face of law enforcement for this movement of Prop 36. So I was the law enforcement head of the law enforcement coalition for Prop 36. I traveled the state. I spoke with groups. I was in Sacramento a lot, trying to speak with the legislatures and our government leaders. But in my rounds of traveling the state, it was very, very apparent that there was a huge disconnect between the public and what was Prop 47 and what we were trying to do with Prop 36 to fix some of those issues that people didn't even realize. They didn't even know that Prop 47 was causing all of these issues. And so once we were able to educate them on the issues with theft and homelessness and drug addiction, all of the things that truly were caused or made worse by a horrible proposition of Prop 47 back in 2014, it almost seemed like an easy sell to say, look, Prop 36, we're going to be able to fix these three issues, the three core issues that will be easy fixes with getting people help for drug addiction, stopping the sales, a more of a punishment for people that are selling these drugs that are just destroying our communities. And then the theft part of just basically just being able to steal without consequence, hurting our businesses and even residences and things like that, it's just overwhelming, and people really had enough. And so being able to talk about Prop 36, being able to talk about where I came from in my, the 32 years of law enforcement that have led up until these little things that take away of our ability to protect you, people have had enough. And it was not Prop 36 showed that where we are in California, we may have gone past this political aspect of Democrat and Republican, because this truly was our leadership in California is all Democrat. It is 100% Democrat controlled, from our governor, all of our state offices, the leadership in our legislature, all of those. And they were completely against Prop 36. And we were able to show that in the rest of the state, some of our liberal mayors and our board of supervisors and certainly business owners, this no longer was a Democrat and a Republican issue. This was a common sense, a crime and safety, a punishment, a consequence issue that really made no sense to anyone. We could not figure out how we actually got to this spot, and government allowed it. And by passing Prop 36 with over 70% and passing in every single county, which LA County is predominantly Democrat. The Bay Area is all Democrat, and every single one of those places passed this with 70% of our state voting for it. So this is an overwhelming, wasn't even a win. It was an actual landslide of saying we need a massive direction change in what government is providing to us. And that part about paying taxes, we truly do pay. It's not a secret. We pay more taxes than anyone in the country. And I think you're absolutely right. In the past, it was, well, we're in California. I mean, we have a great life here. Everything is great here. And over the last several years, really, if you really pinpoint it, it's 10. It's been a decade-long transition down. And over the last 3, 4, 5 years, it's started to affect everyone. And so we've got to the point where, okay, so what am I paying all these taxes for? Because my money is being wasted. You're wasting it on things that aren't helping us. It's on things that we actually don't even care about as a whole. It's pet projects and it's special interests. And I think people are just finally getting to the point where I don't want to say they've had enough of government. They want a better government. They want a different direction of government that's actually working for them instead of against them.
Well, Chad, I do hope this is the turning point that we needed for so long in California to rewrite everything. But, when I was in Congress for 15 years, but I was in politics in California, either with Sonny, so all in all, at least 25 years in campaigns and all. And I always found the state of California, the Republican Party, in just complete disarray and unable to help me with my races, little in other congressional districts. They weren't helpful at all. And I don't say that lightly, very frustrating. But so you were going to that's your surfboard here. That's the folks that are going to help you with this campaign. Do you think that the Republican Party of California is a little bit more organized than they've been historically?
I wish I could tell you yes, but I'm seeing now that they're not. And I'm hoping that there is a change in the next several months. Even, we've got about 10 months before we really get into the nuts and bolts of a campaign working to a primary. And I have to say this all the time to the Republican Party. The Republican Party in California is its own worst nightmare. Yep. We do everything we possibly can to destroy other Republicans while the Democrats are doing the same thing. And so they just end up coasting to these easy wins in these, especially the legislative districts where is assembly and the senators that just keep getting voted in over and over and over. And the Republican Party is doing nothing to recruit good candidates or to support good candidates who are running. And we just tear each other down. And the interesting thing that I'm seeing right now, of course, I'm a very staunch Republican conservative. I can't change that. I'm never going to change that. I would never want to, people have told me I need to change my voting to independent or something to get out of the Republican Party so I could win here. I would never do that for a vote. People know who I am and they know what to expect when they see me or hear me or in my actions. And as I'm doing this now, it's very apparent that over the last maybe like 8 months, the Democrat Party, now I only announced 3 weeks ago that I was running for governor. And over the last 8 months or so, the Democrat Party, all of the candidates who are running on the Democrat side have been running campaign finance ads trying to recruit money in my name. They're saying they have to fight the MAGA sheriff and the crazy, right-wing extremist that is running for governor, and we have to stop this. And it is like, well, maybe they're afraid. They're afraid of the general public saying, well, I don't know, a sheriff is pretty well respected. He's got a very good career. He has a history of respect and integrity. So I am a threat to them. But the interesting thing now that I've announced is the Republicans are attacking me. And the far left or the far right of the Republican Party is saying that I'm not a Republican, that I don't like Donald Trump, that I'm not working with ICE to deport all these criminally illegal aliens, and I'm anti-Second Amendment, all of these crazy things. And it's like, well, I have the right saying that I'm a Democrat, and I have the left saying that I'm a far-right extremist. What we're hoping is that the regular person in California says that I think that's exactly the person I want, because these people over here that just do nothing but destroy each other, they both don't want him. So maybe that is who we want.
California is a huge state geographically. Now, my late husband, Sonny, ran for the U.S. Senate, so I've had a pretty good glimpse into a statewide race. How much of your strategy can you share with us on this huge state and traveling it all and getting to every little, corner of this state? This is going to be very daunting.
It is, and it's not something that we're looking at lightly and saying, oh, we're going to be able to do this. We are saying, how in the world are we going to be able to do this, and then make sure it happens. I'm in a very unique spot just because of my position. So for the most part, all across the state, there's only 58 sheriffs. And the sheriffs in each county are elected by their entire county, and they have the respect of those voters in that county. And not all counties are Republican. They're both, or they're split, or they're purple, or some of them are definitely blue, but they all elect their sheriff. And all of the sheriffs in the state are behind me. And we're going to try, we're using, this is a common sense, right and wrong, integrity issue, character, leadership issue that we're running on. We're not running on Democrat platforms, and we're not running on a Republican platform. We're running on government is broken in California, and we need a common sense leader to actually come in and tell us all the truth, try and get to the bottom of what's best for our public. And I'm getting a lot of help from the sheriffs in the rest of the state. So we're arranging to where some of the like fundraisers and meet and greets and speaking engagements, we're coordinating with multiple sheriffs to make sure that we get the word out in those areas, that we can draw the most people to those, or at least are paying attention. And I think that where we are in California, and Prop 36 showed this, is we're about in the 60th percentile range, in mid 60s of the majority of the concerns in California concern public safety. And then the rest of them, the rest of the 35% are what is always an issue that never gets fixed. And so when we address, I have a natural in and really a head and shoulders above the rest of the crowd in the public safety realm. They can say whatever they want about public safety. They're going to have to bring people in to advise them or to give them their opinions, when I have been doing it for 32 years and I'm probably one of the leading experts on public safety. So I have that natural in and that natural buy-in from the public that, hey, he has to know what he's been talking about. He's been doing it for 32 years. And then the rest of the issues are just really common sense: water issues, school issues, taxes issues, business issues, the regulations that we have, the overregulation and some of the overtax that we have on our gasoline and our energy and those types of things that are resonating with people because it affects all of them now. And we truly are going to utilize the public safety realm with all of the sheriffs helping, because that's never happened before. We even were talking about the last presidential election and even going two back. We were all split. I mean, there are some people that were going to vote for Trump. Some people were not going to vote for Trump. Some said absolutely never. Some said maybe. But in this election, this is all about California now. And this is 58 of the highest elected officials in the state all banding together to do something that's good for the state.
We'll continue with our interview in a moment, but first I'd like to thank my sponsors. Lucy Pet Foods is the leader in gut health. Their formulas for life feature prebiotic, balanced fiber that nourishes your dog and cat's total health. Every purchase helps support the Lucy Pet Foundation, a 501c3 charity helping animals. Save 15% off your first order and use the promo code SAGELYSPEAKING, all one word, and you will get free shipping at lucypetfoods.com. If you're committed to tackling the opioid and addiction crises, then you need to be at the 2025 RX Summit. Use code SAGELY, that's SAGELY, for an extra $100 off. Join top experts and professionals as we share strategies for prevention, deflection, treatment, and recovery. Don't miss this chance to be part of the change. Head over to rx-summit.com to register now. That's rx-summit.com for an additional $100 off.
Hi, honey. I just wanted to give you a quick heads up that I'll be going out with the guys after work tonight to catch the game. It's been a long day and I'm pretty wiped out, so Harry's going to give me a pill to help me stay awake. I won't know it, but the pill will be laced with fentanyl, which means you won't see me again because I'll be dead almost instantly. I love you.
And now, back to our interview. Well, there's no doubt you're going to rock the public safety, but let's talk about that in a little bit broader, the LA fire. Mm-hmm. Now, catastrophe, I think nobody saw coming really, in where it did. Of course, we have seen these fires around California historically, but what would you do differently? What would you have done differently to prevent that LA fire from occurring?
Yeah, this is going back into the public safety realm. So with sheriffs and fire, the I mean, living here and these fires, this is not nothing. This is an every year occurrence where we have these big fires that we end up fighting, and sometimes, towns or homes or things like that are threatened, but we've been very, very lucky and have been able to stop them and prevent major disasters. But it's not because there was not a warning. We've been in the public safety realm, fire and sheriff, we've been saying this for decades, that it's only a matter of time. We're just getting lucky. The weather cooperates with us. And, we had a major fire that was moving into Idlewild that was getting out of hand, where we thought we were at the point where we're going to lose Idlewild. And then it was coming into even Temecula, and God showed up, and out of the blue, it rained for 3 days. And truly, that's the only thing that saved us, or this would have been 2 years ago, we would have had one of these disasters. And the thing about these fires is, we talk about it all the time. From the time I was a deputy on these lines with these firemen, they've been saying, we do this to ourselves. If we would do burns on the off season, if we would do ground clearing away from these homes and take out some of this brush that's been here for 20, 30, 40, 50 years that just keeps building up every year, we wouldn't have what we saw in Palisades and in Altadena, because what happened there was it wasn't out of the ordinary. It was a fire during a windy season. This just happened to be the perfect storm for a disaster, because the winds were a little bit stronger and more prolonged than normal. And that area hadn't burned in decades. And so there was so much fuel for this fire that it got so big, so hot, and so fast, there was just no way to come around it. And I know we have issues with waters. There was the reservoirs being drained, and there are government faults in this, but I don't know if that would have saved everything, because it was too massive. It was too hot. And that with those winds, by allowing it to get so hot and big, I mean, a firefighter was not able to stop it. So there's multiple prongs here. Yes, we should have done more to have available water and even more water storage to fight these fires. But if we had responsible fire prevention at the state level for the last 10 years, 20 years, we would not have these big fires where we're concerned about losing cities and losing towns and losing, major housing developments. A one-off of a home out in the forest, I mean, that's, no matter where you are in the country, that's a danger. That's you hope that nothing ever happens where you're consumed by a forest fire, but not a city going from the foothills down to the beach and the entire thing getting wiped out. And that was not because of the weather. That was not because of natural fire. That was because of decades of mismanagement. And I think that the people, especially there, are realizing that now. They're realizing that, okay, we get that you want to blame the fire department, and we get that you want to blame, maybe even government for there not being water in that one reservoir. But how did we get to this whole place in the first place? The regulations, the special interests, the caring about these stupid little weeds and flowers in those foothills instead of the 16,000 people that lost their house. And we've had an overemphasis on saving the environment and these random things that, if you really talk about the history of the world, species of plants and bugs come and go all throughout history. And to say that we as humans are responsible for saving all of them, we can't, especially when it comes to humans. I mean, we should be, there's a fine line of being able to do both. We should be doing everything we can to save the environment, but not at the expense of humans. And I think that's where we went. It shows we went wrong here with government regulation and control, in that all of these people have now lost their entire livelihoods and history. They have nothing. And it shouldn't have happened had we not had so much government intervention or prevention of making it
less destructive.
Let's pivot to water. So there's a great old Mark Twain saying, I believe, that whiskey's for drinking and water's for fighting. And, water, again, you brought it up with the fires and the empty reservoir. What is your platform on water policy in California?
Well, it's more of the government regulation. Government is controlling everything that happens, and they're using water as a tool. They're using water to limit the amount of farming that we can have. They're using water to limit the amount of ranching we can have. They're using water as a tax base to where, okay, if we're going to charge you so much for this. If you can make it great, we're going to get a lot of money from you. But if not, you're just going to go under, and then we don't have to worry about you anyway. And it's horrible regulation. The fact of the United States is California has more water than any other state in the country. It's just that we are not managing it. We have a management problem. We have a resource management problem in that we haven't done more to build more reservoirs, to bring more water from the central and the northern part of the state down to Southern California, where we may experience, we do have a drier climate. But even though we've had years with less water, we still, every winter, we still have enough water to provide for all of us. It's just that we don't manage it. And we have bonds going back decades where hundreds of millions of dollars was supposed to be for infrastructure of our water supply and our water reservoirs. And they've done nothing. There's been nothing built. And it's government waste. It's government. I don't want to call it embezzlement, but it's that money went to somewhere where it was not supposed to go. And we don't have it laying around. So where did it go? It didn't go for what you told us it was. And I think when you remove that government regulation and that government stranglehold on punishing farmers and growers and our ag industry for using water, and we just make sure that we utilize the water that God is giving us every single year, we're going to be fine. We could go back to where California is the number one producer of agriculture for the country, the number one producer of farming, ranching for the country. It's all been stopped, and it's been stopped in the name of special interest, really.
I don't want to talk about Donald Trump, President Trump, or his campaign, because I don't want to tie you with that. Your campaign is your campaign. You are you. But when you look at DOJ and what they're doing and rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse, is that something you would implement in the state of California as well? And if you did, how successful do you think it would be?
It certainly is. And you're exactly right by saying you don't want to link me and say that it's, the Trump administration and DOJ, whatever it is. What my answer to this is how sad that we have got to 2025 before someone finally stood up and said, we have to stop this waste. We have to stop this abuse. And now they're doing it, and people are in an uproar because we're trying to save taxpayer money and save on our debt and the national debt and our state debt. Our state is going broke, not because we have a money problem, is we have a spending problem. We are one of the richest states in the country and truthfully the world. This Governor Newsom likes to brag and say we're the fifth largest economy in the world. Well, at one point we were the fourth. So why are we the fifth now? And why are we not the third? I think we should be striving to be the third and the second. And if we would get a hold of government waste, which we know is happening, there are hundreds of billions of dollars that have been completely wasted in the name of homelessness, and homelessness has tripled in the last 10 years. The biggest thing for California is this train in the middle of nowhere that goes nowhere. And it's almost like a person from a 30,000 foot level, it's a money laundering scheme of taxpayer money going to just make people very, very wealthy without giving us a product. We're buying something, we're spending the money to buy something, but we're not getting anything. And I think this is common sense, or it should be common sense. What I have been able to do in California, or in Riverside County, with my budget, I have a $1.2 billion budget, and I have yet to ask for more money. I've been saving not only me money, but I've been saving the county money to where they have allowed me. Thank you for spending that. We're not going to waste it. We're going to allow you to buy things that we would not be able to afford to buy you anyway. And it's all because of savings. It's because cutting We had bloat in the sheriff's office, and we had positions that we didn't really need that were just occupying wasted money instead of putting it toward deputies, and then rearranging deputies and making them non-sworn that were less money, freeing up deputies. There was just so many things that we did to use taxpayer money better. And I always say, I'm not a fan of paying taxes. I mean, I pay my taxes, but where I'm not a fan is I don't like where it's being spent, and I don't like it being abused. So if I'm going to be a big spender of taxpayer money, I'm going to make 100% sure we are doing everything we can to be responsible and not wasting it. And I'm just going to take that same mentality to the state level. And I think what we are seeing because of Doge, anyone that believes that it's happening at the federal level and not at the state level has their hand in their head in the sand. You're just naive, and you're just not using really your critical thinking ability, because we know there's waste here. And of course I'm going to stop it. Of course we're going to put we're going to put restrictions on things that aren't benefiting Californians. They're wasting special interests. And I think people are ready for it. I think, and this is not a Democrat and a Republican issue. It's not partisan. People are tired of government waste. And it is sad that we're in 2025 and finally, the government is doing something and the public is all behind it. And it's one of those things where it has to get worse before it gets better. I think it got so bad and so abusive that people just demand a change. And President Trump promised that. This wasn't after he got elected. He told us he was going to do that. And that's what people voted for. So I think that's why the majority of people are happy with what he's doing, is because he promised something and he's delivering. And I will do the same thing in California. And it's twofold. We always complain that we don't have money. There's always a budget shortfall. Well, if we stopped all the waste, would we be good? And if we stopped really all of the waste, could we cut taxes so where we're not paying so much? So if you approach it with a spending problem and not a revenue problem, I think California is going to benefit.
Definitely. Absolutely. Let alone if it's not waste, fraud, or abuse, but I think just frivolous programs or people's pet projects in the Assembly or the State Senate. There's a lot of that too. And I think that hopefully leadership can bring people to the table and take a look at some of those. But when you're on the stump now, you're out on the campaign trail. Are these your top issues? I'm assuming you have immigration up there too in handling that.
Yes, public safety is obviously the top, but then everything falls into play because it's what people are concerned with. We spend the most money per capita on our students, and we are at the very bottom of the country for education. As adults, we are absolutely failing our young kids in California. They are not getting the education that not only they deserve, but that they should get. And we have to address that. We have to make that better. The taxes that we pay, those are easy. We pay way too much in taxes and fees compared to it makes absolutely no sense that you can leave Riverside County and either go to across the line into Arizona or across the line into Nevada and pay $1.50, $1.80 less per gallon of gas. It makes absolutely no sense. That is government. That is government's fault. It's government's fault that my kids probably will never be able to buy a home. The regulations for home ownership and for home building and the development of places has become so expensive that cost gets passed on to us. And now that dream of owning a home in California, that's a far off dream. That's no longer a reality here. And so those issues always have to come up. Those are what the hot topics that people want to talk about, and they want to know that we're actually concerned with, in addition to the public safety issues. And so it's one of the things that I like saying, though, is people, they're very quick to say, give me your top three. And it's like, well, I can give you the top three, but those top three things are only the top three for a quarter of the state. The rest of the state, their top three is something else, and their top three is something else. So we really have like a top 50. a top 100 of quality of life issues in California that all must be addressed at the same time. We can't just come in and say, we're going to cut government waste, because that doesn't fix anything else. Or we can't say we're going to fix public safety, because that still doesn't fix all those other issues. There are just so many bad things that we have learned to deal with over time that they've stacked on top of each other to the point where we can't deal with them anymore. And they all have to be fixed. It's not just that one. You can't just take that one straw off that camel's back because that's the one that broke it. We have to take the entire weight off its back. And I think that's really the approach that I'm going to take there. That's the common sense approach that I want people to get from me, that I have nothing to gain from this. I actually have a lot to lose from becoming the governor. And I'm doing it for my kids. I'm doing it for my grandkids. I'm doing it for your grandkids. I want people the people that have left California that didn't want to leave, I want them to come back. The people that are talking about leaving because they just can't deal with it anymore, I want them to be able to stay here. And then I want to get to the point where I was in the mid-70s when I first came to California as a young kid. And that put that California dream into my head where I had stars in my eyes from the day I left here. And I told my parents, I was 11 years old, and I said, I'm moving to California. And they had to convince me that I had to wait till I was an adult. I couldn't move then. But I want that to happen again. I want people across the country to say California is the place that we want to be. It's not the laughingstock that we've turned it to.
Yeah, I think people still say California is the place we want to be, but no long. It's how do we remove that but? But I don't want to pay the taxes. I don't want to have the crime. I don't want to have the homelessness. I don't want to have. It is there if you can just remove all of those buts, if you would. Everybody still wants to be in California. My goodness, they're just not willing to put up with the nonsense that comes out of Sacramento. So, Chad, you kind of did lay out your vision and your belief in the state of California. Tell me about your faith. I know you're a man of faith, and how is that helping you in your campaign and as sheriff, and also how would it help you as governor of California?
Well, I'm certainly, it's hard when I start talking about this because I would not call myself an evangelical Christian to where I'm the one out, I don't want to say Bible thumper, but I'm not that person that all the time outwardly goes around telling everyone that I'm a Christian and those are my beliefs. I think that internally I do every day. I try and make sure that every single thing that I do is honoring God. I know that I'm a firm believer that everything that I had in my life was a gift, and where I am today was not my doing. There are some things that I walked through, a door opened and I walked through it. I chose to walk through rather than close the door. And there were things in my life that I wanted those doors open and was very angry when they were closed. But I realized that, that wasn't where I was supposed to be. That if I would have got what I wanted, my life would be completely different and it might not be as good as it would as where it is today. So I definitely am a believer. It's hard to talk about. Even though what I have done here in the department, we're no longer afraid as deputies to pray with someone at a call. And we're no longer afraid that every single meeting we have always begins in prayer. And there are several people that want to throw out there the government and religion and everything else, even though that's not what the Constitution says, and that's not what separation of church and state means. No matter what, our values come from Christian beliefs and from a biblical perspective. So if you are honest, if you have integrity, if you value other people, if you don't want to cheat, you don't want to steal, you live by the 10 Commandments, you may not be a Bible thumper, you may not even call yourself a Christian, but all of those values were taught to you, and that's why you have them. And I just make sure that I live by that every day. I live to not, I know in the end that I'm hoping that I'm right, and that I am able to meet God one day and thank him for everything and answer for the things I did, but I don't want to have to answer for things that I did that were not right. And so I know that if I do every single day, if I'm pleasing to God, if I'm pleasing to my wife, and I'm pleasing to my kids, I can never make a bad decision. And I truly do think that way in my daily work. I know that I believe that I was put here because I can sacrifice myself for someone else. I truly do care more about you than I care about myself. And if something in a situation that came up, if I had to sacrifice my life to save yours, I would do it in a heartbeat. And sometimes as a cop, when you leave those situations and it came out right, it was like, man, I can't believe I did that. I could have been killed. But you saved someone else and you just don't think about it. And I believe that that is a God-given gift, that you are able to sacrifice yourself for the betterment of other people. And I think that that's truly why I am here and why I was eventually elected into this position, because, you know, that the biblical saying of for a time such as this. And I truly do believe that I was put here for a reason, and the gifts that God gave me, whether it be strength or whether it be wisdom or whether it be, you know, discernment, whatever the case may be, this is where it was needed at the time. And so, you know, even with the sheriff election, I didn't want to run. We had some personal issues, you know, health issues that, you know, Denise and I were done. We were going to move away and live the rest of our lives the best we could. And I did not want to do this. And it was just over and over and over where those doors were opening and I was closing them. And finally I just had to walk through it. And now realizing that it was because of the lockdowns, it was because of 2020, it was because of civil unrest, it was because of the issues that we're having with government not caring about public safety. And God gave me that ability to be able to stand up and do the right thing. And even at the detriment of myself. So it's working out for me, but that fear of not wanting to offend someone, or that fear of trying to please everyone, and you have to please everyone, and then so you please no one. I think that God gave me many, many talents that he is allowing me to showcase now. And so while I'm not that real, you know, I'm a little bit more reserved, and I'm not the outward person saying that everybody's got to do this. I'll convince everybody in quiet, and, you know, but it's hard for me to talk about. I wish I was that. I have a son that he's the evangelical Christian that can go out and talk about everything. And he was given that gift. And I think God gave me the gift more of my actions rather than my mouth. And so I'm trying to embrace it, even though I work on it.
Well, watching you from afar, you certainly exemplify character and integrity. How can people support your campaign? What can they do, and how can they find you? What is your website?
The website is biancoforgovernor.com, and it's very interesting. Like right now, you know how campaigns work. The actual campaigning and the selling of the campaign doesn't happen till next year. So now we're just raising funds to run a campaign, and a statewide campaign is enormous, and we have to be realistic of what it is. And if you go off of the last historical elections, we're probably upwards of 150 to 200 million realistically, and it could even be more that we're going to have to raise. And when people hear that and they say, oh my gosh, that's impossible. It only takes 8 million votes to win governor in election. The last election for Governor Newsom, he had 7.8 million votes and he won. So if there's 40 million people in the state. If only a quarter of them, 10 million of them would donate $5 to my campaign, just $5. Not only does that give you the personal investment and that personal, I invested, now I want to make it better. I want to go out and find people to vote. I want to make sure people vote. But now we have 10 million people that are going to vote. We're going to win hands down. We'll win by 3 million votes. And the reality of it is that while I would like very wealthy donors to come and contribute to the campaign. I want every single Californian to bypass your Starbucks for the day. And if you truly do want to make an investment in fixing the state, common sense into the state, reason into the state, make a $5 investment, make a $20 investment into making sure that this campaign works. Because with 8 million people doing that, 10 million people doing that, now we have the funds to run this campaign and run it extremely well. And that small $5 investment can make a difference.
And it needs to. California is absolutely, I hate to be overly dramatic here, but it's worth saving. Prop 36 proves it can be done, and the people of California want a change. They want this to turn around and to become the Golden State again. So, Chad, shout out to our mutual friend, Mark Trost. He probably won't listen to this podcast because he doesn't listen to any of my podcasts.
I'll get on him.
Yeah, but, and then, of course, Mark forgot to ask me if I would endorse you. So I'm happy to do that right now, right here on Sagely Speaking. And I'm happy to endorse your campaign and do everything that we can to help you and help you and Denise through this. Campaigning is fun. It's also hell. And there, as you said earlier, there are a lot of horrible people who do horrible, mean things. I have some that were very painful for my campaigns. Letters that were written supposedly from me, accusations of all sorts of things. Years later, they become almost funny. But at the time when they happen, they're hurtful. They're very hurtful. But at the same time, as you know, campaigns and campaign teams become a close-knit family. And so I wish you and Denise a wonderful time on the campaign trail. And I hope it's filled with health and happiness and all things good. And I hope that with the I know, don't let the bastards get you down mentality, that you carry that with you too, because it is going to come at you and it's going to come hard and it's going to hurt Denise and your family more than you, most likely, having been both the candidate and the family member multiple times on all fronts.
You have a very good perspective of that because it's both sides. And Denise and I have promised each other that looking back, there's been two very ugly campaigns that have attacked us. And we know this one's going to be worse. And we have promised each other that we are going to take all the positives from a campaign. We, like Riverside County, we have met so many people that we would never have met had it not been for a campaign. And now they're good friends. And we're going to take that to the state. And we are going to see places of the state that we probably would never see. And we are going to meet people that we would never have the opportunity to meet. So this is going to be an adventure for us. It's going to be a very fun, but yet painful adventure. And we are going to make the best of it because we know that we're doing it for the right reason.
Well, I want to wish you all the best. And thank you so much for joining us today on Sagely Speaking. It's an honor to have you on, and we're going to watch your campaign and holler anytime that I can help or our team can help. And just good luck to you. Thank you very much.
Very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And to my listeners, thank you very much for joining us on Sagely Speaking. Or our viewers, thank you very much for watching. And until we see you again, stay curious and stay kind. See you soon.